Part 1. Pre-Columbian era before 1500. Before the arrival of Europeans, the territory that is now Chile was inhabited by various indigenous cultures. The Mapuche people were the most dominant, especially in the central and southern regions. They had a rich way of life based on farming, hunting, and organized warfare. In the north, cultures like the Atacaminos and Diaguitas developed and were later influenced by the Inca Empire, which extended its reach into northern Chile in the 15th century. However, the Incas failed to conquer the Mapuche, who remained fiercely independent. These native groups had unique languages, belief systems, and social structures. This era is important because it shows that long before the Spanish came, Chile had a diverse and complex cultural heritage that still influences the country today. Part 2. Spanish Conquest and Colonial Rule, 1541 to 1810. In 1541, Spanish conquistador Pedro de Valdivia founded the city of Santiago, marking the start of Spanish rule in Chile. The region became part of the Viceroyalty of Peru and was governed by Spain for over 250 years. The Spanish introduced European institutions, Christianity, and new farming practices, while also forcing indigenous people into labor systems. Chile was not as wealthy as other colonies like Peru or Mexico, but it had strategic value. Despite Spanish control in most areas, the Mapuche resisted fiercely in the south, leading to the long-lasting Arauco War. Colonial Chile developed a mixed culture combining European and native elements. This period set up the colonial systems and inequalities that would later be challenged in the fight for independence. Part 3. Independence and Early Republic, 1810-1830s. Inspired by revolutionary movements in America and Europe, Chile began its independence process in 1810, when a local government was formed in Santiago. However, the path to independence was difficult, involving battles between royalists and patriots. Leaders like Bernardo O'Higgins and José de San Martín played key roles in military victories, including the crucial Battle of Maipú in 1818, which secured Chilean independence. O'Higgins became the country's first leader but was forced to resign due to political opposition. The early years of independence were unstable, with conflicts between liberals and conservatives. Yet, it was a time of great transformation, as Chile moved from being a colony to becoming a sovereign republic with its own identity. 4. Nation building and territorial expansion, 1830 to 1883. After gaining independence, Chile focused on consolidating its national identity and state institutions. The Constitution of 1833 gave rise to a strong central government led by conservative elites who emphasized law, order, and economic development. This era saw political stability and the formation of institutions like public schools and a national tax system. Chile also embarked on a major territorial expansion. In the south, the government launched military campaigns to occupy the Araucania region, home to the Mapuche people. These indigenous communities resisted fiercely, but by the late 1800s, Chile had brought much of the territory under state control, though at the cost of displacement and conflict. Meanwhile, in the north, Chile entered the War of the Pacific, 1879 to 1883, against Bolivia and Peru, triggered by disputes over control of the nitrate-rich Atacama Desert. Chile's victory granted it significant territory, including Antofagasta, Tarapacá, and Arica, expanding its borders and giving the country access to valuable mineral resources. This war not only boosted the Chilean economy, but also enhanced its regional influence, marking Chile as a rising power in South America by the end of the 19th century. Part 5. Conservative Rule and Early Modernization, 1883 to 1925. After winning the War of the Pacific, Chile entered a period of economic growth, powered by exports of nitrate and copper. A wealthy elite controlled politics under a parliamentary system, while most Chileans had little political influence. As workers and the poor faced long hours, low wages, and poor living conditions, labor unrest grew. The most tragic event was the Santa Maria de Iquique massacre in 1907, where the army killed hundreds of striking workers and their families. Public pressure for reform increased. In 1920, Arturo Alessandri was elected president, pushing for labor laws, pensions, and education reform. Resistance from Congress and the military slowed progress, but in 1925, a new constitution was adopted. It strengthened presidential power and marked the beginning of modern state reforms. Chile was now moving toward a more centralized and inclusive political system, but tensions were far from over. Part 6. Instability and Military Dictatorship, 1925 to 1990. The 20th century was marked by political turmoil. In 1970, Salvador Allende, a socialist, was democratically elected. He launched bold reforms, nationalizing copper, redistributing land, and expanding welfare, but his policies divided the nation. On September 11, 1973, the military, led by General Augusto Pinochet, overthrew Allende in a violent coup. A 17-year dictatorship followed, during which thousands were imprisoned, tortured, or disappeared. Economically, the regime implemented free market reforms, privatizing state services and opening the economy to foreign trade. These policies brought growth, but also widened inequality. In 1988, Chileans voted no in a national referendum, rejecting Pinochet's continued rule. This peaceful decision led to the return of democracy in 1990, ending one of the darkest chapters in Chilean history. Part 7. Democracy and New Challenges, 1990, present. Since 1990, Chile has experienced stable democratic governments and steady economic growth. It became a respected global trade partner and joined the OECD in 2010, symbolizing its international recognition. However, inequality remained. In 2019, a subway fare increase sparked massive nationwide protests, fueled by frustration over high living costs, student debt, healthcare issues, and a constitution dating back to the dictatorship. In response, Chileans voted to rewrite the constitution, a historic step toward a more just and inclusive society. Although the process has faced challenges, it reflects a broader desire for long-term change. Today, Chile stands at a crossroads, still one of South America's most stable countries, but also a nation deeply engaged in shaping a fairer future for all its citizens.